So yes, Lucas, tell us about what you were seeing in the news in the very serious newspapers.
Yes, so I was just earlier today. I was on award-winning German newspaper Tagesspiegel. Really, the paper of record in the world, I would say.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And the headline was Sergei Lavrov's T-shirt as he arrived for the the meeting of the leaders of the world, as we were calling it earlier in Alaska, which was USSR. I think it was some sort of like sports sort of,
Yeah, it was
like
just
a
a
throwback jersey
pullover.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but here's the funny thing. The funny thing, they were he was also wearing a suit, so it was kind of like covering up a little bit. So they were trying to establish first, the first half of the article was basically just trying to establish whether that was indeed what he said, just like based on the two letters that were visible. So it's just fascinating stuff. When I say the headline, I mean the headline, like, like the top article on the main page of the website.
Mr. Lavrov, what are you wearing? What are you wearing?
But that's the thing, though, is that like he notoriously has like had scandals for wearing like hilarious designer things like that.
But at the same time, like a Russian politician wearing like USSR clothing is like when someone at the office party wears like a T-shirt they got free from a failed startup they used to work at.
Whoa. Hold up. I will not let you slander the Soviet Union this way. One, two, God forbid Sergei Lavrov, a totally normal dude with nothing weird about him, gets a little fucking motion, all right? That he gets a little swagger, all right?
I think it's Sergei Lavrov just strikes me as the like looks at every T-shirt in his drawer and is like, I'm not throwing this out. This is still good.
Do you guys know or remember that earlier this year Lady Gaga had like this huge concert in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil for like 3 million people or something?
Yeah. We did talk about this indirectly on the show, actually.
Yeah, so I was in Rio in the lead up to that, up until like the eve of the concert, and there was like huge anticipation for her arrival, because everybody starts losing their minds like from then on, and people camping in front of the hotel is crazy. And then there was this huge motorcade like a few days before the concert, I think on the day that we're supposed to arrive, and people just line up on the streets, just screaming Lady Gaga. Turned out to be the motorcade of one Sergei Lavrov.
International pop sensations for Sergei Lavrov.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Was he there because he's like a Gaga fan? Like, is that, or is it?
Not to my knowledge. No, the official story is that he was there for some sort of meeting or something. There's something like going on. I don't remember what.
There's some sort of brick summit, and every it's just like, normal cameras flashing, everyone's shaking hands, and Sergei Lavrov just like impatiently staring at his watch, looking where the door is.
Yeah. He's like, well, you see, Kieran, I am a little monster. My voice can't get low enough to do Sergei Lavrov. I'm sorry.
Hey, welcome to your weekly Corner Späti. It is me, Kieran, and I am joined by Nick.
Hello.
And I'm joined by Uma.
Hello.
And we are here today with BDS activist Lucas. How are you doing, Lucas?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me. This is the only podcast in the world I'll be sitting indoors on a 34 degrees for, I can tell you that much.
Thank you. I hope that was a compliment.
Yeah, it was. It was a huge one, actually.
I do.
Yeah, it's super hot today in Berlin. It's disgusting.
I'm not going to say what temperature it is here and how that temperature is killing me.
It's probably like 18 degrees, I'm telling you. It's like 15 maximum. How much is it, Kieran? Come out with it.
It's 21.
Oh, okay.
Fuck you.
Sweating.
I really do hate that our show has become like the Weather Channel for the first like 3 minutes of it. We get it. It's hot. All right.
Well, no, I think to be fair, that's politics now. Like, it's just like I was listening to like Financial Times talking.
Yeah, Spain is like 57 or whatever. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, you're not wrong.
Like a colleague's in-laws went to like on holidays to Turkey, and I was like, "You went to Turkey this time of year?" They're like, "Yeah, it reached like mid-40s while they were there. They spent the entire time just in their like hotel room that they just couldn't go anywhere." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what it's like now." You know, Financial Times is talking about like the sand shortages that are happening now.
Oh, but there's been sand shortages for like years.
Well, the fun thing about it now is that like climate change is getting rid of all of our sand.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, "Oh, our beach is gone. We need to make a new beach. The beach is important."
Yeah, there's like a massive like organized crime thing of like sand trade or sand theft rather. Are you unaware of this?
No, this seems fake.
No, it's real. 100% real. It's like they're like the largest mafia in India is the sand mafia.
Oh, okay. I have heard about this.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Why?
There is a massive international criminal like organization of sand theft because it's the most important one of the most important natural resources.
For what?
Beaches.
For
in Abu Dhabi beaches.
Well, yeah, for
Dubai.
for in a lot of cases preventing the damage of climate change because they have to build up like the legal sand trade stuff. Like you have to like what is it, like Singapore is like all made of sand, and it's like they just kind of like build it up, and that's how the city has been able to like spread and shit like that. Yeah, but
so like
other ways of getting sand is through, or like Dubai exists through sand that they import.
The place that's too poor to keep importing sand is like South Carolina. And they need the sand to stop the sea from like encroaching on where all their houses are, and the houses just keep falling into the ocean.
It's a thing, but this isn't the sand pod. We're actually very far away from the sand. Well, actually, no, there is sand in Europe. I take that back.
Yeah, we've got sand. All right, so before we head to our main topic, I've got some news of the week, which is shocking new report from the U.S. State Department, but Germany has fallen to wokeism.
I love how this woke. I don't. Would it be? It would be wokeismos because they would still pronounce woke like the English way. Yeah,
yes, they're classy.
Yes, this is one of the way that I loved that I found out about this was I think it was like Welt, and it was like U.S. criticizes Germany for human rights violations, and I'm like, this has to be something really stupid because it wouldn't be anything regarding Germany's support of Israel, and the ongoing genocide. Like, no.
The stuff that like Amnesty International has been talking about of like, hey, this
police brutality,
bad.
Yeah. It's saying it's the thing that what's his name? JD Vance said at like the Munich Security Conference months ago of just that Germany has it's the thing that then it's like I agree with the statement, I disagree with how it's meant. That Germany has like a freedom of speech, freedom of press problem. True, but they don't mean it in the sense that then it's like, oh, that they're, like trying to like extinguish like left-wing voices and activists and this and that and that. No, they mean in the sense that like groups like the AfD, many of whom are like, former card-carrying Nazis, are being pressured by the state, which is stuff that then I look at that and I'm like, no, I think the state should like take care of the AfD. So there's that, and there's also there's the problem of imported anti-Semitism, which we lest we forget that Merz actually went to the United States and reiterated this very stupid claim that is not true. And Germany, the United States has kind of like slapped back at Germany being like, yeah, your imported anti-Semitism problem because of migration. So the U.S. is telling Germany that it's violating human rights by apparently not being racist enough, which is, I don't know how I don't know how to go about with that one.
There's three specific claims I that are brought up into this. First of all, in the state, like it focuses on Germany, this report, but shout out France and the UK also get lumped in with this. So also wokeism and wokeism. We've got, let's see. So downplaying the effect of Muslim immigrants was one of the things they complained about with Germany. Sick, cool. Too much focus on right-wing extremism from the German state.
Yeah, by not doing anything. Like, constantly.
I mean, but that's still too much, apparently. And then also specifically online censorship. So no one's seeing my posts in Germany because I just probably included a video of Hitler just having a great time.
I know for a fact that last one is not true. Just looking at how like Instagram just feeds you Nazi shit. I know for a fact that is. Maybe the Trump administration's unaware that like the person who posts a TikTok or an Instagram can like do that thing where you just like silence people but don't block them, so they just like think that they're like talking to themselves. Like
Germany has shadow banned JD Vance's posts. I mean,
that'd be cool actually.
Living in Ireland, I do miss the occasional like waking up to Twitter online discourse, and then like all the media is like, this post has been blocked due to various laws of the German government. I miss not seeing the outright like Nazi, like I miss being sheltered from the outright Nazi stuff. I get to see that now here.
It was such a shame though, because whenever like I would go and try to find the Ben Shapiro post of like, you know, like what is it? We build and they live in like, you know, sewers or whatever, how he's talking about like, you know, being really racist towards Palestinians. It was, which is kind of ironic now that like that tweet is monitored by the German state as being too racist to be displayed, when it is like now the official you know, position of more or less the state of Germany and many members of like the CDU, of course.
Yeah, but it's just like, don't be so kind of crass about it. Like this, yeah, we agree, but just stop saying it so loudly or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so Germany is woke because posts. That's generally the vibe of this whole statement.
That is a very MAGA statement though, like a very MAGA worldview of like, oh, you know, people aren't liking my AI, like my Facebook AI slop enough. It must be that I'm being shadow banned, rather than that they're like all their friends are bots and they don't like bots don't really normally like things.
I would love to live in the headspace. Like, I've sent out some tweets or whatever that get like one like, and I would love the headspace of just not immediately thinking, I guess that wasn't a banger, Kieran, and rather going, actually, there must be some sort of like EU legislative reason this only got one like.
Ursula von der Leyen has me on her personal kill list.
This is why that only got one like, actually. That's the reason. Oh, god damn it. Anyway, I do view this as being a part of the same like weird shit that's happening with, you know, under Trump too, of like, hey, we're really pushing for Ireland and Austria to join NATO. And that whole thing that we talked about a couple of weeks ago where the US government approached Marine Le Pen saying like, hey, we'll help you in any way we can, wink wink. And Le Pen turned them down because everyone in France hates America right now, including the far right. But I view that as all this kind of like weird trying to influence European politics to become more conservative is the wrong word because Europe is plenty conservative. MAGA, I guess.
Yeah. It isn't this like, it is kind of the sense that the United States really is using its like city upon the hill, New Jerusalem of like neo-fascism, but they don't seem to understand that Europe is perfectly fine without the US being racist. You know,
we can just go back to good old fashioned CDU racism.
That's
I mean, this continent runs on.
I think that's like a fair enough good transition into like the main topic. You know, like that they're. Oh no! Do you have more news?
I have one more news that is a bit more, way more directly related to the main topic.
Oh, great. We love it.
To be slightly hopeful about, like, hey, the thing that we have to talk about every week because all of politics rebounds to the genocide right now. It is like the main thing. It feels farcical when anyone tries to talk about anything else. So much so that there seems to be strikes of EU civil servants happening now in Brussels due to the fact that they are, let's see, in their own words. Okay, yeah, this was written in Politico. EU institutions have imposed complicity on employees and violated their, quote, moral and legal obligations, suppressed conscientious resistance, and delayed meaningful action. One official, asking to identified as Ramona, feared for professional repercussions, told Politico. So basically, one of the very like technical legal arguments they're making is that Israel is currently in violation of like a bunch of existing EU laws. And by making us work with them, you are making us break the laws of the EU, and we can't do that as civil servants of the EU. So this is like this very weird kind of loophole nonsense of like basically what it seems to be implying from this whole article about like the suppression. People have been like pushed out of the canteen in Brussels for civil servants for wearing like, God, what did the t-shirt say? Say no to genocide. Should be kind of an uncontroversial
That could be any genocide. Yeah, like it's not.
Yeah.
That's always the funny thing where it's so not specific. It's like the thing of like, oh, stop murdering children, and then like a Zionist gets really mad about it. It's like, so you're admitting you're doing that, like you're pro murdering children.
That was the response that I loved seeing on Twitter after like the Superman movie got all the complaints.
Yeah.
The fictional, evil, highly technological, advanced nation that's killing this smaller nation of brown people.
That's like, anti-Semitism, Kieran.
No, everyone was responding like to like Israel foreign ministry is like, "Hi, I don't understand how this country is like Israel. Can you explain it to me?" Hey, can you write out the bullet points real quick for us? Yeah. So it's real bad, but it does seem that like basically all the kind of like unnamed civil servants of like the EU, the kind of like faceless side of this, are not happy. Might be able to gum up works. There's been petitions going around. There's been like work refusals. Yeah. So let's give it some slight hopefulness. That I always people are against this.
Yeah, I put all my eggs in the basket of the European technocrats saving us. That has been the motto of Corner Späti since day one. The EU actually brackets woke and good and your savior.
Hey, I read this U.S. State Department press release. I've heard that the EU is too woke now.
Oh God, but like, I don't even. I don't want to go on a tangent about that. We can just we can go on. There's no time for this.
Yeah. There's no time.
Then that's like it's a perfect segue for our we brought our good buddy on, guest, friend of the show, legitimate friend of the show, not sarcastic friend of the show, Lucas. You may know him from being famous on TikTok, I guess is the only thing I could really give. But you've been kind of putting a lot of attention, I would say, since post October 7th towards BDS activism. What can we do? Where it is kind of, you feel so helpless in so many different ways within this genocide. But BDS has been a movement since of obviously like before October 7th has been, quite controversial in Germany, at least. But I guess for any of our listeners who do not know anything about BDS, this is your first time you're thinking BDS, aren't you missing the M? No, this is different. Could you maybe give like our listeners just like a very brief like overview of what BDS is and kind of what the general goals of boycott, divestment, and sanctions against the state that is apparently called Israel?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, again, it's the BDS movement, not the BDSM movement. It's a different movement.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions. It was launched in with a call in 2005 by a very large coalition representing the absolute majority of Palestinian society. And it's really simple. Whenever anyone like doesn't really know where to begin with BDS, I always advise people to go and read that call because it's like it's a one pager, maybe not even that. And it's quite simple. It's about ending complicity. So it calls for boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel and against complicit companies and institutions until Israel respects the three basic rights of the Palestinian people without which they can't exercise self-determination, which is the end of the occupation, the end of apartheid, and the regime of racial segregation as recognized by the ICJ and all the major human rights organizations in the world. So the end of that, and the right of Palestinian refugees to return to their homes. And the campaign goes on until the Palestinian people have those three rights respected by Israel. And it takes inspiration from the global movements, the global solidarity movements that helped end apartheid in South Africa. So it's been done before, essentially, also against great odds. And yeah, the message of BDS is first, do no harm. First, the first step towards showing meaningful solidarity with the Palestinian people is by ending the complicity of ourselves, of our institutions. So it invites people to act where they are already. Like if you're an artist, a student, if you're in a trade union, if you're in a pension fund, in your workplace, everywhere there's something that you can do. So yeah, that in a nutshell is what BDS is about.
I guess like one point too that then as well maybe clarifying of before we get into like kind of the effects of it is you mentioned in the sense if you don't understand anything about BDS to go on go look up the one page thing, but one of the things that then I think that because it's always very like difficult to like conceptualize to people of like, oh well, there is this thing, boycott is like a thing that then I think a lot of people are actively doing. And the thing that then at least because we've mentioned this regarding like Eurovision hilariously of a thing that then BDS has like made a statement on of that then BDS actually like does give like quite like official statements as well too of like who to boycott. I see like a lot of your videos come out of recent, particularly one company of like Reebok, being the kit manufacturer for the Israeli national team, with your quite creative videos, and you even like made like a mock-up of a of a suggestion that you had of what the new jerseys could look like. So for the people that then are kind of like oh well how to even start about this, how to go about this, how does like BDS kind of like direct then this type of action? Like, because at least for in the sense of Eurovision, they give like an official statement of like Eurovision this year, we're not, don't watch it, don't participate. Or I guess this year they didn't do one, right, Kieran? Or was it
not this year? The last year, yeah, yeah. I actually don't know the reason behind it. I think probably because between those 2 years, the scope of BDS had pretty drastically expanded, and they thought maybe asking for Eurovision might have been too much. That was my guess. Because between those two contests is when like the natural like McDonald's boycott occurred, and the so there's like really big consumer facing ones. That's my guess. But yeah, so it's like do not engage with Eurovision in any way that like either makes them money or that they can brag about later. So that's why you can't like first thing you have to do is like block them on social media because they really tout their impression numbers or whatever. But this isn't about Eurovision. Don't wind me up.
Yeah, but nonetheless, like, so how does then BDS kind of tackle this large thing of there are so many companies that then are complicit. What are like how do how does like one, I guess more or less, I get involved with a very kind of large beast that is but at least boycotting. I mean, we mentioned McDonald's; those are kind of obvious. How this is hard for me to like word, but like how do you kind of like get someone convinced in the sense of like, hey, this isn't actually as difficult as you think it is? Like what are the measures that then BDS does to kind of like involve people in that regard?
Yeah, so first of all, BDS is not asking you to boycott absolutely every single company and every single institution that's complicit. That's unfortunately that's impossible because there's just too many of them. They're all over the place, and some of them are quite big and they're monopolistic as well. So it's hard to avoid them. But as far as boycotts are concerned, BDS, and this is something else that you could go on the BDS website and read an article that explains this bit by bit, but it has very defined and concrete criteria which a target has to meet in order for them to become a boycott target of BDS, essentially. Several of them, some of the most important ones are that I mentioned in the case of some of these companies are monopolistic. There has to be alternatives to their product has to be avoidable. Basically, either it has to be something that you can go without, like Coca-Cola, for instance, or it has to be something for which there's alternatives. Another one is a potential to build intersectional coalitions, which is another like hugely important principle for BDS, an intersectional movement. So one very clear example here is Chevron, which is a BDS boycott target because it explores gas fields in the Mediterranean claimed by Israel. Chevron obviously that's not the only way Chevron is doing harm to the world. It's contributing to climate change. It's also doing harm to indigenous communities in Ecuador, for instance. So you can build an intersectional coalition there and make the campaign more powerful. So there's very well established criteria. So sometimes you see those kind of unofficial boycott lists floating around on social media that include huge number of companies. These are unofficial, and if you go to the BDS website and BDS social media, you'll see like a graphic with all the targets included, and you'll see that it's a much smaller list for that reason, because it has to be also not just because the targets have to meet the criteria, but also because we only have so much people power. Like we can't build active, successful campaigns against like literally hundreds of different targets. So that's kind of the strategy behind it, is to bring a lot of concentrated pressure onto a few targets that are very carefully selected for strategic reasons and also based on their level of complicity, rather than spreading out and thinning out our efforts across like a huge multitude of different targets. And of course, as an individual, if you want to go beyond that, there's no reason why you shouldn't. Like if as an individual, if you can avoid every single company that's complicit and boycott hundreds of companies, go ahead and do it. But BDS is not just a list that you take to the supermarket. This is about building collective campaigns against different targets. And also, you have to also recognize that certain targets are maybe hard to avoid, but also extremely complicit to the extent that you can't really just give it a pass. So take Google, for instance. If you use the internet, you're using Google in some sort of way. It's very, very difficult to avoid it. So we can't like call for a full boycott of Google products. But there's also different tiers on within the targets of BDS. So Google, for instance, is what's called a pressure target. So it's a target that, they have the logo there. It is a BDS target, but we're not asking for boycott. We're asking for campaigns to be built in order to pressure Google to end their complicity, but recognizing that it's hard to impose a full boycott. So that could happen in a multitude of ways. I think the most inspiring one, perhaps, is the movement of Google employees inside Google who are campaigning, sometimes at very significant professional and personal cost, and pressuring the company to end the complicity. So bottom line is, it's done in a very strategic way so that everyone can get involved, while recognizing that the limitations that certain campaigns may have due to the different profiles of different companies.
Yeah, I just need to Google that. I'm actually sorry. I'm Googling something right now about Google. It's fucking terrible. I think their slogan is still "Do no evil, don't be evil." Yeah, fun.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I did not know that was their slogan.
Yeah. Yep.
That's crazy.
Oh no, former motto. Okay, so they've decided to be evil.
Yeah, they also had a pledge not to. I can't remember now if it was specific to AI technology or their technology in general. A pledge for it not to be pledging for it not to be used for military ends that they quietly scrubbed. Like that passage was scrubbed in February, I think.
Yeah, I the list that you were mentioning earlier, like the unofficial one. I remember when it came out, and it was like hundreds of companies, and it didn't even say, as you were saying, like the kind of like the tiers of like complicity of that the BDS does show in their websites, and many activists and people involved with the BDS had to come out and be like, please stop, trying to follow what you see online, and have a look at the actual BDS website and at the actual targets, because some of the lists were a bit not ridiculous, but a bit just too much.
I do we can talk about this maybe now or later or something, but I do feel like that has been an active like smear campaign against
I was just
BDS.
about to say that sounds like an op. That sounds like make it seem so ridiculous that no one wants to actually participate in it.
Yeah, like that definitely comes up, or a huge one that I see oftentimes from like Israeli officials or people who run interference for Israel, whether they're like American or German journalists, is pretending that BDS is only the boycott part, because it's like the divestment and sanctions part is usually just like completely ignored. Then when you accept that, they're able to kind of like twist the narrative of like, this is not how we ended apartheid in South Africa, because it wasn't only the boycott, it was also the divestments and sanctions. And it's frustrating, and I do see, and I've seen that more in real life with like regular people, where they don't know what they know boycotts are happening, but they don't know what BDS is, and they're kind of like, they are picking up a collection of companies that are implicit, but then they're not ones that have been selected, because I think BDS describes this very well about the idea of targeted campaigns. Like, it can't just be everything that it's involved with Israel. We have to take targets that we view, probably put it in better words, but I think like are crucial, that we could make a difference to, and would actually genuinely affect like the Israeli economy.
Yeah, I think there's two important things I want to touch upon there. The first one regarding the list. I mean, I'm not saying that like sabotage doesn't exist. It definitely does, but I do think that by and large, in this particular case, it was just like really like well-meaning people who just wanted to do something, and it's not the most strategic way, but it's the like the impulse is admirable, so it's just like it's again BDS, which a lot of people didn't really know about before the genocide began. I think it's just we just need to get the message out there that BDS already exists, has been doing this for 2 decades now, and they're very good at it. They're very strategic about it, and they're Palestinian led. So again, I commend the will to do something and to boycott, and I would just direct people who want to do it the most effective way possible to follow the what BDS is asking you to do, rather than focus on those lists. And then the second thing, what you mentioned here, like that's really crucial, because most people, when they think about BDS, to the extent that they know BDS, they think about the boycotts part. And it's obviously it's a really important part of the BDS strategy, the boycotting. But yeah, we have to also talk about divestment, and especially in this particular moment, sanctions, because the genocide is still ongoing. The bombs are still falling, and first order of business is imposing a military embargo against Israel so that can stop. But also divestment, it's something that I think a lot of people really learn what it meant quite recently with, for instance, the wave of encampments in universities across the world. Many of them, especially in the US, in the UK, in Australia, demanding that the universities divest from complicit companies and from Israel bonds, etc. That's also really, really crucial. And that's where some of the biggest BDS successes ever have come from, like the Norwegian sovereign fund, for instance, $2 trillion fund, the biggest in the world. Last year divested from Israel bonds to the tune of $500 million, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, this money really fuels the genocidal machine of Israel. So it's important to make it more mainstream and to build pressure for divestment as well.
Perfect transition to then like the next thing that I wanted to ask was, how have we then been seeing? I mean, we could get talk singularly about boycotts probably for the entire episode if we wanted to, but yeah, the other aspects, particularly the U.S. ones or universities divesting is probably, I think, the most the most public one that then I've seen, at least, or people have like reposted the most, probably because people didn't realize how much United States universities have invested in really evil things. This has come up too with like investments in like the private prison system and whatnot. I think people forget that universities are these massive financial institutions, as well as like these institutions of learning, apparently. But in the terms of the moves that we've kind of seen, to varying degrees of, I don't want to say success because this is still an ongoing process, but I guess I have varying degrees of skepticism. The ideas of then like the limited sanctions that the European Union wants to then put forth to Israel, which is, the EU is a fickle matter, but nonetheless the discussion is at least there. How have then how have we seen, I guess, the pressure of BDS really kind of like change the, not just like the hearts and minds, but also like the legislation of certain matters. We've talked about this before with Ireland's dealings economically with Israel, how those are always like a fuzzy thing. Kieran is not here right now, which does not help me. But I forget the name of the bill that then Ireland constantly is like trying to bring up to further divest from Israel. How have we seen then that like in the post October 7th, one, like the pressure from BDS on these organizations and the successes, particularly in divestment and sanctions?
Yeah. So I mean, it's of course it's difficult to talk about successes when you're in the middle of the genocide.
Yeah,
but we have to.
Putting pressure on, I guess, would be that.
No. Yeah, no. Like I'm not chastising you for using the term. Like I think we have to. But I'm just recognizing that it's a very bittersweet thing to do, because it's which tremendous cost these successes have come, unfortunately. But it's important to talk about because it gives us hope, right? It gives us hope that things are changing and things are moving. I mean, when you talk about sanctions, I mean, we're living in a completely different world compared to before October 2023. So, I mean, we've had the Colombian government impose a coal embargo, and hopefully will soon impose a full energy embargo against Israel. That's not just a random country. A huge percentage of Israel's imports, energy imports, come from Colombia. Brazil just announced measures as well. Last year, over 50 countries defended the imposition of sanctions against Israel. These were all things that were, just unthinkable. And slowly, you're starting to see that movement happen in the global north as well, which is of course crucial because that's by and large where most of the complicity and specifically most of the weapons come from. So yeah, I mean, it's you see successes left and right. It's important also to hold governments to their words. Like if we talk about statements only, then the list rises exponentially. But it's important to also understand that if a government gives a statement announcing that they have the intention to impose sanctions or whatever, or to prohibit transfers through their ports, whatever the case might be, that's great. But they had to follow through, which unfortunately happens less often than you might think. So, but we're seeing that as well. We're seeing civil society in different countries pressuring their governments to follow through on their words, and it's something that BDS always calls for. BDS is a grassroots movement. It's from the grassroots to the top, not the other way around. So it never asks for a government to do anything. It asks for public pressure on a government to do something, to change their policy. And we're seeing more and more of that across the world.
I think in a nutshell, it's the BDS movement what makes it so, like, it is a way for, if you feel like you can't do anything as a single person who isn't like, doesn't work in the government or anything like that, doesn't hold a quote unquote true position of power, it's a way for us to make a difference, for like a random person to make a difference, to try and make a difference. And I don't know, I think that's like the coolest part of the BDS movement, which is obviously the whole point, but yeah, just wanted to
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask too, how, I know that this sounds kind of silly in the realm of like, I mean, I mentioned that you're famous from TikTok, but I'm going to lean into that a little bit. How has then, this is going to sound like a dumb generic question, but I hope that you like get what I'm saying. How has social media like really kind of like changed the scope of this? Not in just the sense that we know like we see death and destruction every day on our phones, but has there been like a visible difference in like engagement from people? I know that then that you have these campaigns a lot of time of like, hey, spam so and so, write in the comments, tell them to stop collaborating, even like some celebrities and whatnot. How is that like kind of leveled this playing field? I mean, this isn't, like the BDS didn't start in 2023. Israel's treatment to Palestinians did not start in 2005 when BDS started, but I do feel that then it's like in the era that we're kind of in now, it is one, yes, you may be able to argue that then like Israel's genocide has gotten so bad that then people are like taking a stand, but the availability of information too has definitely helped this, I would say, quite a bit. Has there been like a measurable success strictly due to then how easy it is to kind of like engage people like this, and even in silly ways of just like bullying people, dare I say, like it has worked in some degree, and has that made it, I guess, maybe easier? I mean, maybe obviously yes, but in which ways, I guess, have you noticed that then that you've been like surprised of like, oh, this platform that I like use for information and kind of getting a message out has also like been like, oh, hey, I managed to get like this person to not have a collaboration with the brand or something like that. Like to what point have you noticed, maybe for you yourself or like within maybe the organization as a whole? I mean, I assume that you don't have too much connection with then, BDS official. But nonetheless, where you've kind of seen like, damn, like That's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a really interesting thing actually, because I think it's sort of like the mantra in political activism is that social media is a tool to get people to do something physically, like be it attend a protest or a meeting, something like that. I think that that still mostly holds true, but it's also interesting to look at the examples where it doesn't. I think one of the goals of BDS when it targets a particular company is not only to force it to end complicity through damaging it financially, but also the reputational damage of being a BDS target. And I think that has increased a ton, in the past couple of years as well. One example that I think is really interesting is Erea. Erea is a fairly small Italian sportswear company, and in December 2023, if I'm not mistaken, Puma announced that they were not going to renew their contract with the Israel Football Association. Puma was a BDS target because of that contract, so that was a BDS win. And then the question was, okay, who's going to step in and replace Puma? So it turned out that the first one to step in was this company, Erea, and very quickly they pulled out because BDS, made a storm about it. It got their name out there, not in the way that they would like. I always say, like, people who say that any press is good press had never gotten bad press. It's not pleasant. And then they like, to my knowledge, there were no. I mean, obviously, like a boycott campaign didn't even have time to really set in. To my knowledge, there were no like huge protests, say wherever their headquarters is in Italy or anything like that. It was really solely the social media pressure that forced them very quickly to pull out the contract. So it depends on the particular situation. It's like Chevron is not going to be very sensitive to nasty comments on social media. They're evil and they embrace it to a large extent, I would say. But yeah, it's that's why it kind of like fills my heart with joy to see Reebok turning up their comments on Instagram, for example.
Sorry, I'm laughing at the person in whoever's background that is deciding to throw away all their glass.
Oh shit, it's me.
For the truest, I'm leaving it in. Sorry, because it's like it's the truest Berlin experience of that.
God, the acoustics in these in this backyard in Berlin is
beautiful. We love it. I mean, I have, when we very first started the show, one of my friends asked, "Do you record it in a Späti?" And I did not take that as a compliment. It was like, oh, the sound quality is so bad, because you could hear everything in the background of where we originally recorded the show. But yeah, like that is like I was just about to ask in the sense too of like with a larger company like Reebok, which is are they still a part of Adidas? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Nonetheless, I was just about to ask, has there been like any like visual like visible signs, and the fact that they turn their comments off is, it's getting to them. Like that is a petty reaction, if you ask me, especially for like a multi-billion-dollar sportswear company.
There was one particularly in Ireland, which is McDonald's advertising has really ramped up. Like, McDonald's used to be a kind of thing that didn't have to like do print advertising, and now there is like print advertising everywhere, and like the understanding seems to be, it's like, please come back, please, we've got all these new menu items, here's a photo of Stormzy eating a burger, please come back. Yeah, and then you read the Financial Times being like, yeah, the last quarter for McDonald's wasn't great. Yeah, we know why.
Yeah, it does.
But bullying sometimes works. Like, it doesn't work with every company, but it does work sometimes. Yeah, but it's especially when it's that type of company, like a very consumer-facing company that really depends on social media to promote their stuff as well. McDonald's might not fit that bill that much, but I think certainly fashion companies and like sportswear company do. So Zara did the same thing. I don't know if because Zara was announced like BDS endorsed the organic boycott campaign against Zara recently, and I don't remember now if they just like straight up shut down their comments or if they just started like screening certain terms, which is something that they often will do as well. So anything that has Palestine or Israel genocide in the comments, it gets hidden automatically. But they did that as well, because they know that like that stuff like really hurts.
It's definitely like I feel like the ones that are the most susceptible to that kind of stuff are any that have to give the appearance of like, or like implicit like creative industries, because like fashion is a creative pursuit. Like obviously not Zara. Zara is just evil from like the ground up.
I'm surprised that
like,
Zara hasn't like made a statement of like, actually we're very pro evil. So remember those pajamas that we had that looked like like concentration camp?
That's because you guys don't know the owner. He's like
he is
the evil person of Spain. Like
we know about
the worst person.
Uma, what show do you think you've been on for the past 3 years?
I don't know. I don't know if you know Amanti Ortega, the worst person to fucking the worst Spanish person to exist.
Yeah. Something else is also interesting as well, which I think really like there's been really evidence in the case of Reebok, is these companies these days on social media, they rely a lot on collaborations. So Reebok, especially in this time of the year, it's kids launch season. So they're doing a bunch of collaborations with clubs and with athletes launching new gear for the season in different sports, mostly football. And I remember their logo reappeared on the Israel Football Association's website kind of on the same week that they were launching the kit of this Brazilian club, Botafogo, and BDS made a post about it. I also made a video about it that went a bit viral. And so they got flooded with comments on social media and like on the day pretty much where they launched this kit. And the thing is, like the main, it's kind of like nitty gritty of Instagram. So, but like the people who actually published the post it was a Botafogo account. It wasn't a Reebok account, which meant that Reebok had no control over the comments. So you had like, a bunch of comments by Brazilian Botafogo fans. And then that was like one half of the like 3,000 comments. And then the other half was fuck Reebok, Angel complicity, etc. And I think that that's also really damaging for them because like now you have your partners, also kind of getting heat because of their association with you. And also you had like a bunch of people were just asking like, what the fuck is up with all these pro-Palestine comments? Like people in Brazil asking Portuguese, and then people informed them like about Reebok and how they're complicit. And they were like, damn, I guess I'm boycotting them,
Didn't that also happen with like some influencer that did a campaign with them? Because I remember you posting something being like, hey, so yeah, Reebok doesn't have the comments on, but the collaborations do. So it's this random influence. Well, I don't know who that person was, but yeah, this influencer or whatever, or this famous person, and all the comments are just about like the boycott and pro-Palestine stuff.
Yeah, that was a rapper.
Yeah,
Tobe and Wing. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his last name. He's cast in Moamer show on Netflix, funny enough. And
are you fucking kidding me?
No, and it has a deal with Reebok, which like in and of itself, not necessarily like the worst offense because it's a fairly new campaign against Reebok. They only just signed like I don't know a year ago as sponsors of the IFA. So like I said, not necessarily the worst offense, but then I posted that, and then they started deleting the pro-Palestine posts in the post, and like it wasn't Reebok, it was them, like it was either himself or the people who managed his social media. So
the bag is not like stop doing that. Yeah, the bag is not worth it. Sorry. Also, there's other ways to,
Yeah, but that should, like, I don't know, that should deter other. I have seen like other, like, actual influencers that they've, because of BDS and because they're good normal people, they've quote unquote missed out on, like, I don't know, $100,000 or something like that because they refuse to work with these companies that BDS is asking us to boycott or stop using them.
Do you remember in November of 2023 when, like, all the influencers, like a handful of influencers, were coming out being like, hey, I got this weird email saying, like, I will pay you if you talk positively about Israel or focus on the hostages and stuff like that. And there was a little bit.
You're just skipping the sponsor and just going straight to doing Hasbro.
Yeah. They're just like, watching a weird, like, tech channel review, like, the new Android phone.
Yeah. By the way, bring them home. Yeah. Just like, here's our moment. Instead of BetterHelp or some shit, it's just the nation of Israel.
Of, like, the influencers being like, I said no, and that's why I'm telling you about it. And then it was a lot of people just like, wonder who said yes.
Yeah. This is, like, related in a very weird way, but kind of in this, like, it feels that then also the tactic of this, which I know that BDS isn't like the first to do this, but they are quite, I would say prominent, and you see this particularly like related with Palestine issues, like this type of call for whatever type of activism it may be has become the most prominent. And it's been very interesting to see that then it's kind of like given a lot of people like this feeling of like, oh, hey, we can do something. One of the most interesting ones I've seen lately, this is a pure US one, of during the like the LA riots with, the stuff happening with ICE and whatnot, which this is all connected within the geopolitics of, what happens, and this is the imperial boomerang, baby. And people were then researching of stuff of, like, a lot of people coming out, being like, anti-ICE, pro-migrant, this and that. And people were wondering, why did the LA Dodgers, which is a very, like, big staple of, like, the Hispanic, particularly the Mexican American community in LA, and the littlest amount of research that people did were like, oh, turns out the owners of the Dodgers have a massive stake in ICE, and it's currently causing a massive, like, boycott of Mexican Americans in LA to boycott their favorite baseball team. And I feel that then that this, like, type of attitudes wouldn't have really happened if it wasn't for then also this kind of can-do attitude that BDS, I think, has, like, kind of provided within the last 2 years. Like, there has been, I feel, a lot of groundwork within activism too, like within the United States, because of people kind of seeing their stuff working to some degree with business relations with Israel, the small victories that then we've kind of had along the way. And it's been very refreshing to kind of see this actively take become a quite effective method for other forms of activism as well in the United States, which surprised me because I found that Americans are quite, quiet about certain things depending on it. So I mean, it is very interesting how kind of, like, infectious this level of activism is too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the basic things that BDS is about is just making people realize that they have people power, and of course that's helpful for this particular cause, Palestinian liberation, but it goes far beyond that, obviously, and be it through boycotts or whatever other shape things might take. We can do stuff, like we can do, like, a lot more than you would think, even if, and like, yeah, sometimes it might be on a smaller scale, But yeah, I mean, everything makes a difference. It's not me telling you, because I'm just a random guy, like it's not, don't take it from me. Like Palestinians are telling you this. I'm reciting what they're saying, essentially. They're asking you to do that. They are telling you, look, if you convince your workplace not to use HP computers and printers anymore, that's a win. We take that and we commend you and we applaud you. So that's Palestinian society telling you that. So I think it's our job, first and foremost, to listen to them.
Yeah. I mean, BDS is really, kind of just like harping on this one more time of like, it is very much like, yes, there is, an organizational structure of it. You said it's Palestinian led, but getting involved in it isn't like, you don't have to like go get your BDS membership card, or like, things of that. You can literally start simply just by, the smallest level of you getting involved can just be like, I mean, instead of buying a Coke, if you live in Germany, buy like a Fritz Cola or something like that, or find out the other companies that you can do. And it is like, it is easy, like, I mean, it's maybe like you said, like there's not everything that you can possibly boycott, but there is like, I did, notice in the sense of kind of, when the call to, boycott the main kind of main companies at the beginning. I think there was like I mentioned Coke, McDonald's, things like Airbnb, this and that. And I've still been like pretty like adamant of like when I, like for example, like my sister was going to book something with Airbnb. I'm like, don't, boycott, baby. And it is kind of a thing, like you may come off as like a bit of a nuisance sometimes, but it is like, like you can still be active in a way that then isn't like, organizational by any means. It is very like decentralized in I guess the purest sense of the word, just that you simply go out, you do what then you can at least do on that small level. And yeah, there are the other aspects of how you want to get involved with and like I don't know why my American brain is like, call your senator and tell them to, but there is, like the governmental side of things and such as well. But I think then through the sense of then getting the initial like spark of like, oh, I'm not going to buy this, gets you kind of more like wanting to get more involved with then, like what the other aspects of BDS are. At least that's been my personal experience for it. And I assume that then for other people it has been as well. It makes you feel like you're doing a little bit of good. And by doing so, you kind of want to like invest more time into like not supporting this shit.
I think a big thing is also when people hear about the victories that have already happened.
Yeah,
I think is a huge one. I so often encounter like the whole like the boycotts haven't worked, and I'm like, no, there's actually these lists of like a handful of things that actually have been done, and even like you were saying, like they're small. Like people like to be on the side of, good, and then also a good side that's winning, or like doing something that's like really important to them. So yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it has been effective. Yeah.
For sure. And with that in mind, like we can take a look at the like one of the most solid kind of like success indicators that you can pick, which is how is the Israeli economy actually doing? And the answer is very bad. They're very worried. They're very concerned. Unfortunately, like you don't see a lot of that being reported in Western media for obvious reasons, but Israeli media, they report on it quite often. When they do it, they usually do it in Hebrew because they don't want that, they don't want us doing a song and dance about it. But internally, they talk about it and they're very concerned. The top Israeli economists recently described the Israeli economy as being in a spiral of collapse. Their businesses shutting down left and right. Startups are doing quite badly, which
oh no! Oh my God! Yeah. The startup country, my goodness!
It's just startup nation. It's the BDS calls it the shutdown nation now.
Yeah. Without Waze, I'm just going to crash my car into a building. No, I need my Waze.
So it is working, like that pressure is like really is working, and they're talking about, like in political discussions on newspapers, whether this is survivable for Israel. But the other thing that you touched upon, Nick, that I wanted to mention as well is, I think it's also important for people not to get hopeless when they feel that they can't do everything. Not even like, not everything in the sense of like, these like maximalist lists that we're talking about, but even what BDS, like the BDS targets, for instance, because like it's a much smaller list, like I mentioned, but in your particular situation may vary, and it might be something that you just cannot do in full. So, for instance, you mentioned Airbnb and Booking are two good examples. They're pressure targets for BDS because they have listings in occupied Palestinian land, but they're monopolistic. It's very hard to avoid one of them, let alone both. But BDS was just launched a campaign focused on hospitality businesses, and one of the things that they asked them to do in the toolkit is, if you can't avoid these platforms, which is completely understandable, otherwise you go out of business, there are other things that you can do. So, for instance, there's an automatic confirmation email that everyone gets when they make a reservation on your place through Airbnb or Booking. Include a paragraph, and there's a model paragraph there, saying that you stand with Palestinians, and that you stand against genocide, occupation, and apartheid. That's something. So, like, even if you can't, when we talk about boycotts, avoid the services of certain companies, don't get discouraged. Like, just find something else that you can do within that, or just move on to and get active on a different campaign.
I think that's a perfect place to end it on a very positive note. Before you go, Lucas, what do you like? I guess what's like maybe like a message that you want to kind of like convey to people if you already haven't, with the sense of, I mean, the reason to get involved is very clear. But maybe like what to tell someone that then who by the end of this hour-long conversation maybe is still kind of unconcerned of like, oh, well, but I'm small, I can't do much. This like for the naysayer at the end of this conversation, what would then you, I guess, like have to just like a last word for them, or just for our listeners in general?
So, first of all, we're going up against very powerful interests, very powerful institutions, very powerful states. I recognize that fully. Everybody does, but keep in mind it's been done before. Like, we've ended apartheid once before, also against great odds. I remember like having conversations with my mom about this, and she's a skeptical at heart when it comes to politics. So she was saying like, yeah, well, that's all commendable, but I don't see it happening at the end of the day. I don't see it succeeding. And I asked her like, look, in the 70s or early 80s, did you ever think that apartheid would end? And she says like, no, it was just unthinkable. It was just a reality of the world. You didn't really think that it would. It was a shame, of course, but you didn't think it could ever end. And then all of a sudden it did, so it's been done before. And of course, that's not the only struggle that won against great odds. And it's growing, and we can do it. And then the other thing, like when we talk about, fighting hopelessness and, those kind of discussions, I always go back to this event last year in Berlin with Ilan Pape. And there was a Q&A at the end, and someone asked a question along those lines, which you often get in these types of events, because, I mean, it's understandable. It's almost 2 years of live stream genocide now, and it kind of breaks something in you a little bit. It's hard to stay hopeful when all of the images coming out, all of the facts haven't been enough to stop it. And the question was basically along the lines of, I mean, what does it matter at the end of the day? Like how do we keep going? How do we not lose hope? And then he says something along the lines of, look, I've been doing this for a long time, and it takes a long time for you to understand this feeling, because it's not an idea, it's not a thought, it's a feeling that you wake up every day and you don't ask yourself, like, what's the result of what I did yesterday, of what I did last week, or what I did last month? Has it had any results? You just ask yourself, can I do a little bit more? And I think that at the end of the day, it's a feeling that we should all strive to get. Just not ask ourselves, is it working? Even though, like we talked about at length here, it is in a lot of different ways. But that's what I do personally anyway. I just try to wake up and ask, can I do a little bit more today than I did yesterday? And I think that if that attitude spreads enough and we keep at it, there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to win.
Oh yeah. All right. With that, all that's left to remain is all that remains is Lucas. Thank you so much for coming on. Anywhere people can find you online?
Yes, Lucas.Febraro, Febraro on TikTok and on Instagram. But first and foremost, if you're going to do anything, please just follow the BDS movement, BDS.movement on both those platforms as well. And keep up with BDS campaigns, support BDS, get active.
Yes, do that. And with that, we will see you on the bonus feed. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.